A storybook ending for Hendrick Motorsports might not equal a storybook type of race. By that I mean the product. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, it's Taylor Kitchen with Toby Christie of TobyChristieCom, and we are back with another episode of Above the Yellow Line from the track. We're at Martinsville.
Yeah,
right here. So we figured we would have some background for you guys this time as opposed to what we did at Richmond. So
we've got confetti everywhere.
Yeah, confetti everywhere.
We're all in the Hendrick ruby red spirit. We've actually painted our skin red,
yeah,
so that's good.
Yeah, we got a lot of sun today, but we're excited to talk to you all about our thoughts from Martinsville, from the track, just kind of fresh off of the race finish. Obviously, I mean, storybook race for Hendrick Motorsports with William Byron getting his third win of the season. Hendrick Motorsports altogether had a fantastic weekend. Kyle Larson on the pole. There was a lot of strategy involved with this, though, including that really solid call from Rudy Fugle to get him out after a pit stop. He started that whole green flag stop near the end of the race.
Yeah, when you look at things at the beginning of the race, that was the one Hendrick guy that you probably thought, okay, this is the guy that's not going to win this thing because he's starting 18th. There's no way, right? He has to leapfrog all of his teammates plus the other guys that are inside that whole top 17 to get there. But like you said, the strategy by Rudy Fugle, pitted early on that last pit stop at the end of the day, was able to make up so much time in just like one lap of fresh tires, and that was the difference. He got to the front of that, and at that point it was his race to lose, and he didn't lose.
No, and speaking of difference, what a difference this was from the fall Martinsville race where William Byron thought tooth and nail to be able to get into the championship four. I mean, it was an incredible effort from William Byron and that whole Hendrick Motorsports 24 team.
Yeah, and it's funny because Rudy Fugle was talking about, we really want to get better at Martinsville. We're not very good at Martinsville. And I just thought to myself, like, he won this spring race a couple years ago, but then, yes, like you said, last year, trying to get to the championship four, he was the favorite and nearly didn't make it to the championship four. So, yeah, it was a disaster last fall, but they came back in glorious fashion today on the Hendrick 40th anniversary race. All the ruby red paint schemes, they get it done. And man, what a storybook finish. It was 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3 for Hendrick Motorsports. Second place, Kyle Larson. And he was dominant in stage one, by the way. I mean, kind of what we expected. This was really a track position type of race. It's just how Martinsville is nowadays. But then Chase Elliott finished in third. He led 64 laps today, which was pretty good. The best showing, I think, for him so far this season.
Yeah, he had a really good effort, and it looked like in the closing laps he had a shot because we had the overtime finish.
Yes.
And it looked like he gave his teammate a little bit of a shot going to turn one on that restart. Didn't quite get it pulled off, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, Chase Elliott's got to be happy about this. It's one of those things where going into the last couple weeks, he had no top fives in a long time. Now he's got two back-to-back, so I think he's got to be feeling pretty good going into the next set of races.
And another driver that has to be feeling pretty good after this race and heading into Texas is a driver that almost won the Texas race last year. Bubba Wallace finished this race in the fourth position. I wrote an article about this on TobyChristie.com, so check it out. But at Richmond, he admitted to the media that he kind of had a come-to-Jesus talk with his team, kind of like, hey, we're starting off the season kind of like what we did the year prior. I don't want that to happen, and it looks like they turned it around.
Yeah, they were so good early, they kind of started hitting some bad luck there for a few races, and now all of a sudden today they came back out firing. I mean, second place in stage 1 and stage 2, banked 18 stage points out of the box right there, and then closed it off with a solid fourth place finish. I know they had nothing for the Hendrick guys at the end of the day. He wasn't really the guy that was leading all day long, but he was right there in the mix every single time, always in the top 5. I don't think he dropped out of the top 5 anytime I saw, so really good run for Bubba Wallace. Really good job by Booty Barker and those guys. What the 23 team needed.
Exactly, and to capitalize on that too, he was second place in both stages, just wasn't able to get that lead when it came down to it. In fifth place, we had Ryan Blaney. Sixth, Joey Logano, again, showing his short track skills. This is, I believe, the most laps that he's led, according to Mike Joy in the broadcast, in a non-drafting track in quite some time.
That is interesting because he's a guy that you're used to dominating races and stuff like that, but it has been kind of feast or famine for Joey Logano lately, and he made some strategy calls in this thing, too. They went with the two-tire approach there and nearly pulled off a stage win out of it. It faded a little bit towards the end, but they were still up there mixing it up.
And then we have Tyler Reddick up next. And then Alex Bowman, the only driver not to be in the top 5 for Hendrick Motorsports, but he had serious speed heading into this weekend. Really good consecutive 25, 50-lap runs in practice and qualifying.
Yeah, and the question I have, because I really expected him to contend, too. I know Bob Pockris picked him to win, and Bob's his picks just continue.
Bob jinxes them every time.
The picks for Bob are not going well this year, but At the end of the day, he still got a really good run, but I think the weather changed. We were expecting it to be super cold today, and it warmed up pretty good, as you can tell by our red faces. We're lobster-faced. We're looking like Martinsville hot dogs. And, so it was just one of those things where I think the temperature changed through him a little bit of a curveball because, obviously, all these guys had their cars set up for a colder temperature race. It didn't happen, and but again, still a solid run.
Another solid run for Chase Briscoe, who finished in that 10th position. But before that, we have Ryan Preece, who was on the pole for this event last season, finished in at 9th. A really good day. Well, I mean, Chase Briscoe won. He's had a great season so far this year. I mean, living up to expectations that we would hope to have for Stewart-Haas Racing, kind of picking up momentum this year. I think he's done great. And then Ryan Preece, I'm excited to see him pick up the pace this season.
Oh, for sure. And this has got to be a big feel-good moment for him because this is, like you said, the race. He had the pole last year, led like 136 laps to start the race, got penalized for speeding on pit road, and that kind of doomed him. He was the one Stewart-Haas Racing guy going into today that had no top 10s on the season, and now he has one. They all have top 10s. I know they're not super high up in points, but they've had some penalties and stuff like that. You take those away, and you're starting to look at some pretty decent seasons for guys like Noah Gragson and Ryan Preece, and Chase Briscoe's up in the mix. I think that's his third top 10 today, so they're kind of slowly but surely showing some speed. Josh Berry was way better today than his results showed.
Yes.
Finished 25th. Yeah. They had issues on pit road. Rodney Childers talked to him after the race, and he thought they had a solid top 5 car. Like, he felt like they were a top 5 car. So just a few things need to turn one way or the other for those guys, and they'll get the finishes they deserve. But overall, a pretty strong day for Stewart-Haas Racing, even though the best finish was 9th.
And you mentioned, maybe not what the results showed for those Stewart-Haas Racing drivers in particular. Let's talk about Denny Hamlin, though. He was in contention to win this race. Obviously, I don't think anyone had anything for the Hendrick cars.
Right.
But there was a thought at one point that maybe Denny Hamlin could go back-to-back from Richmond and maybe winning this race. Chris Gabehart brought him to pit road following that last caution, thinking that maybe it could be a Hail Mary type of move to maybe get the lead, but not enough cars went to pit road. Yeah,
it was kind of weird. I really thought we'd see more. We had, Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, and maybe like 2 more. I mean, it wasn't many.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot.
There weren't a whole lot. We didn't have a lot of guys on the lead lap, so there were only like 14 guys on the lead lap there going to that final restart, but it was one of those weird things where it just didn't have enough time to get it done. We went to an overtime finish. And so you got the green-white checker. There was a crash coming off turn 4. So, we had a little itchy trigger finger on the caution light last week with the Kyle Busch thing. We probably could have called a caution for that one.
Probably. Most likely.
But everybody kept going. It was good to go. So it's one of those things. But ultimately Hamlin ran out of time. But like you said, he was the guy that really was probably the one that would have spoiled the party had he had a chance. He was the guy that on those long runs would kind of give them a run for their money. Actually got up there and passed them a few times. I think he won a stage, right? I think he won stage 2, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So they were very strong throughout the entire race as well. Just couldn't quite get the finish, but 11th, right?
Yeah, 11th.
Wow, okay.
That's 11th
that's
for the
strange.
11. So
that's weird for Denny Hamlin not finish top 10 at Martinsville, but again, they tried the pit strategy, it just didn't work out.
Yeah, gambled on the strategy call there. Is there any other driver that you feel we should mention based on their day? I feel like one would be Todd Gilliland, right?
Yeah, man, I feel bad for him because he looked like a guy who was going to get his top 10 there. He's been so good this year. He's had speed, he's led a lot of laps, has gotten no finishes to show for it. And I felt really bad for him at the end of this thing because he's running top 10 before that final caution comes out. Final caution comes out. Still gets a decent finish at, 13th? But not quite the top 10. So that's a real bummer for those guys. But a good result after a hard-fought day.
And overall this weekend at Martinsville, from Truck, Xfinity to Cup, talk to me about how you felt about the product, what we saw, and then obviously with the focus on Cup a little bit.
Yeah, so Truck Xfinity is what you expect, really good close races that end up devolving into a little bit of a crash fest, and then at the end of the day, it's like somebody wins the thing. So it is what it is. Those are what you kind of expect. Cup race, it's not the best racing we've seen, obviously. Yeah. The next-gen car still does not deliver at the short tracks, but I do think this Martinsville race with the next-gen has gotten progressively better each race we've seen. This wasn't that first race in the next-gen car where everybody wanted the race to be over on lap 10. So we did see some movement. We saw some people coming and going. Like we said, William Byron went from 18th to the win. So there was some movement in the field. It wasn't a situation where a guy wins the pole, leads the first 200 laps, and the only way he's losing it is if he messes up on pit road. So that's a positive, but at the end of the day, there's still work that needs to be done on the short track package.
And I will say, I think 400 laps for this event was perfect. It felt really quick, but I think for the product and everything in between, I think it was just the perfect length. I will say I was really shocked, and I haven't noticed this in the past, but with this race in particular, the lap cars really caused quite the stack up for the leaders.
Yep.
And that really caused a problem, and the leader really couldn't get past the lap cars at all, or if not, super easy. Like at all.
I mean, I hate to break it to everybody. It's not supposed to be super easy. So
No,
that's
it's
the whole
not.
thing. And that's what you loved about NASCAR back in the day. Like, I started watching this thing back in 93. So back in 93, people get caught behind lap traffic all the time. The lap guys don't have to move over if they're not multiple laps down. And in situations like this, that's their only chance to possibly save their day is by holding you off if you're the leader. So at that point, it's the leader's job to either shove them out of the way or hang in there and wait for somebody else to pass you. So it's one of those things where you might want to shove the guy out of the way.
We saw a lot of that this race.
Yeah.
That made it entertaining for me. So.
It did, yeah. It was good to see people applying the chrome horn a little bit again.
Yeah.
And it seemed like people were getting a little bit more aggressive. And it's not one of those things where the cars handle so perfectly and stuff like that and have such power where you can come off the turn and pass people just with your car itself. You have to do something else to make it happen. And ultimately, that's what caused that last lap crash
Right.
as well, with Carson Hocevar diving at N3 wide. Ran into Casgrala, which sent him into Hendrick. Hendrick went spinning, got collided into Noah Gregson there, and a lot of damage. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised they didn't throw the caution there. I think for ultimate chaos' sake, I think that would have been interesting.
I honestly, because I heard it on the radio, we were on pit road getting ready for post-race interviews, and I heard about the crash, and I was like, all right, no caution, okay, sure.
Sweet, we're going to roll with it. That's good.
Yeah. But overall, though, to conclude this all, above or below the yellow line?
This one, I would go above. I think it was above. So
Okay.
last week, I was very down on it.
Yeah, we were very negative about last week.
I think this week was above. I think it was better than Richmond, and I think it's probably the best Martinsville race we've seen with the next-gen car.
Honestly, I would agree. I think I'm leaning towards maybe a 57%. I know that's really weird, but I mean, it had the right amount of action. I do think with the pit strategy by Rudy Fugle and just kind of seeing how that all played out along with the cautions, nothing was totally interrupted. I think it was a masterful play. And then again, I do agree with you. This racing was the best I think we've seen with the Gen 7 car at Martinsville.
Right. Now, had Joey Logano been able to hold on to the 2-win on those 2 tires for that
been
entire
great.
run, it would have been great, but I would have called this a below the yellow line, because at that point it's like, okay, you get out front, you're out front. But no, we saw people were able to pass when the situations were right. If the tires were old, there was a penalty for it. So it took a while. It took like 100 and something laps for us to see the penalty.
Exactly.
As we have a truck going behind us. This is the beauty of live stuff at the racetrack. But at the end of the day, there were penalties if you did have older tires. Again, it took a while to get there, but we saw passing, we saw things happening. If you didn't play your strategy just right, you didn't win the race, and the guy who did play his strategy just right did win the race. So that's what you like to see.
Yeah. Overall, I think it was pretty good. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to check out all your NASCAR news at TobyChristie.com, and make sure to check us out at AboveTheYellowLine.com as well. All of our socials are on those websites or linked in the description below. Make sure to join us for our live stream on Thursday night. We might have a special guest.
Ooh.
So stay tuned for that. Just throwing that out there.
Okay.
So, Toby's kind of surprised. I mean,
Yeah.
Toby could be one of our special guests too.
Ooh.
So,
all right.
yeah,
I
I'm
don't know
already
how
throwing you
special
in.
I am, but sure.
I think you're special, Toby. The viewers think you're special.
I guess. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you all next time. Bye.